In this presentation, we're going to take a look at GameSalad. GameSalad is a 2D game design engine that's going to allow us to quickly mock up a simple wireframe for a quiz game targeting an iPad or some other kind of mobile device. I'm going to get started by launching GameSalad. And from the splash screen that pops up, I'm going to choose to create a blank project, and I'm going to hit the Create button. And from here, it's going to take me to my new project properties. And I'm just going to give this project a quick name. I'll call it Quiz, and I'm going to choose the platform that I want to design for it. I'm going to choose iPad Landscape, and I'll say OK. And at this point, I'm going to let everything else default from the project info. Next, I'm going to navigate over to the Scenes panel, and the Scenes panel is going to give me the ability to add, rename, or delete existing scenes. And by default, when we create a new project inside GameSalad, we're given an initial scene. And we're going to treat scenes more or less like pages or chapters in our game. And I'm going to add 2 more scenes, so I'll just hit the plus button twice down the bottom left-hand corner, and I'll rename these scenes. I'm going to have a loading screen, or maybe I'll have a menu screen or a splash screen of some sort. And then for each scene after the loading screen, I'm going to have question 1, question 2, and so on. And so I'll mock this up so that it's scalable. And the goal for this project is that we build a simple quiz of 10 questions. And I'll talk a little bit more about the details as we push through. So I have 3 simple scenes set up inside GameSalad. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on the first loading scene. And this takes me into the scene view, and this is where most of the magic's going to happen inside GameSalad. I'm just going to make this window a little bit bigger. And if I look over here on the right, this is our stage. And this stage is emulating an iPad in a landscape orientation. And so this is where we design our interface and we implement our actors, what GameSalad refers to our actors. And so a quick tour of the interface from the scene view. We're going to spend most of our time in the scene view. Is we have the ability in the top left-hand corner to navigate back home. I'll double-click back on the scene that I want to activate. Alternatively, if I want to jump from scene to scene, the best way to do it is to click on the Scene pull-down menu. Now, if you want to modify, rename, or delete scenes, the best way is to go to the Home button and make sure that you go to the Scenes tab. But if you want to just jump from scene to scene, the best thing to do is click on the Scene drop-down menu and choose the scene that you want to go to. I'm going to avoid tables in this presentation. It's a little outside the scope of this project. Just below these command buttons is the inspector. And the inspector currently is set to look at any actors that we have in our scene. And actors can be things like graphics that we design, or we can generate some really simple basic graphics by actors by clicking on this plus sign. Down the bottom right left-hand corner, when I click on the plus sign, that gives me a default actor. And by default, if I just click and drag this actor out, you can see that I have this simple white cube. If I double-click on the actor, it takes me into the actor attributes, and I can modify things like all of the attributes that are associated with this graphic. And just for the sake of the demo, I'm going to find the color field, and there's a color swatch here. If I click one time on the color swatch, that gives me the ability to adjust the color. Now, if I wanted to, instead of using just a simple square rectangle of a graphic, if I wanted to import a graphic like a PNG, I could import that into my library and use that as an actor, or I could just simply drag an image into this actor for it to assume that style or that graphic. So I'm actually inside the actor modifying its attributes. Below the attributes panel, we're going to find our library, and our library contains things like behaviors, and this is where we're going to get all of our behaviors and our actions, which collectively make up the logic that functions for our game. So we can attach different kinds of logic to our buttons or our actors and determine what kind of input is required for them to execute a behavior or an action. More about that in a little bit. In addition to our library, it can contain things like images and sounds, but for the sake of this demonstration, we're going to focus on using really simple predefined actors. We're going to create simple actors by clicking on the plus button in the actor inspector to create multiple actors. We're then going to apply logic to those actors using the behaviors library. So we're currently looking at an untitled project inside the loading scene. And what I'll do is I'll just do a quick file save as, and I'll give this file an appropriate location. So I already have a GameSalad quiz project folder established, and I'll call this quiz03 because I'm incrementing this project, and I've already created a few other examples which I'll reference a little bit later. So I'm going to start by creating quiz03, and as I make forward progress, I'm going to increment that file name to build that history into my project. So if I break something and I'm not quite sure how to squash the bug or to fix it, I can always take a step back into a previous version of my project and pick it up from there. So currently I'm looking at quiz 3, I'm looking at my loading screen, and I want to start by adding just a real simple logic to this actor that I've placed on screen. Now, right now I'm going to get rid of this actor 2 by selecting it and hit delete, or click the minus button in the bottom left hand corner, and I want to focus on this simple actor that we have on screen. And I'm going to rename this actor, I'm going to call it loading. And this is going to be a simple graphic that for now is going to do nothing but wait a few seconds and load the screen that's on here, and after a few seconds it'll forward to the next scene. And so we could set up a behavior on this graphic by, we'll double click, we'll go back into the attributes, and over here on the right side you can see that there's a tooltip here that says drag your behaviors here. And what we can do is if we go into the library, the behaviors library, and we're looking in the standard tab, I'm going to go look for a timer behavior. So I'm going to scroll down. There's a timer. I'm going to click and drag and drop it onto this actor's logic screen. And we now have a timer function. And what this timer function is going to do is, currently it's set to every 5 seconds do something. And I'm going to set this to after 5 seconds, or maybe I'll change this to 3 seconds. We want it to do something. And the way that logic works inside GameSalad is that we're not really going to be scripting anything from the ground up, but what we'll be doing is programming by dragging and combining the logic that can be found inside the behaviors to create some more complex function. And so basically what I want to do is, if I find a function or an action, I can drag that out, and remember, we're attaching this to an actor. So currently this actor has a function of a timer, and after 3 seconds it'll do something, and what we want to do is we want to drag that action that it's going to execute after this timer into this window. And so I'm looking for either a change scene, and so it's alphabetical, and I can look in here and find there's change scene, and if I click on it, it'll give me a quick description of what that action is doing. And so what I want to do is drag and drop that into my timer object. So currently my timer is saying after 3 seconds execute whatever action is inside this logic statement, and it simply says change scene. And the scene that we want to go to can either be an absolute direction, so we can go back to the loading screen to create a loop if we wanted to for some reason. We can create an absolute link to question 1 or question 2, but I'll create this dynamic link to next scene, which means whatever scene it's on, based on our scenes panel, it's going to go to whatever the next scene is. So we're going from left to right here. So I'm going to double click and go back to my loading screen, double click back into my loading actor, and now I can see that I have this logic, it's in place. So if I want to go back to my scene view from my actor logic, what I'll do is just click the back button. So I've already dragged this loading actor onto my screen, and the logic that we just set up simply says when this actor is on stage, it's going to count 3 seconds, and then it's going to execute the action that's inside that timer statement, which means to go to the next scene. Now, just for the sake of providing a little bit of contrast, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the plus sign to create a new actor, and this actor is just going to be a temporary actor, and I'm going to set this actor to just give it a real simple color that kind of stands out from the rest of the group here, and I'll hit the back button and go back to my scene. This actor is just a visual cue that I've actually changed the scene, because there's not a whole lot going on in this scene other than having a simple actor on stage when I go to the question 1 scene, or the scene that the timer is going to take me to, I want some kind of visual aid on screen to let me know that I did in fact change the screen, or change the scene. I'll hit the back button, so I'm back inside the loading screen, or I can click on the scene menu and go back to the loading screen. And now when I hit the play button, what should happen is it'll present me with my game, and once I count to 3, it'll take me to the next scene. And I know because on question 1 scene, I can tell because my visual cue popped up, I lost my little loading actor, and I can also see down here in the scene view, we started with the loading scene and then it kicked us over to the question 1 scene. So that basic logic that I set up is working just as it should. I'm going to go back to my loading screen for now, and actually I'll jump into my question 1 scene to really kind of think through the basic nuts and bolts of this quiz that I want to set up. Now, ultimately, I want a very simple quiz, and I know that in my quiz I'm going to have a multiple choice. There's going to be a question, and then there's going to be at least 3 answers. One of those answers is going to be the correct answer. At least one of those answers is going to be the wrong answer. And in most cases, I'll have 1 right answer and 2 wrong answers. And so what I'm going to do is build 2 simple actors. So I'm going to click the plus sign here. And this actor, the first one, is going to be correct. So in other words, when I click on this, I know that I'm answering the question correctly. So I'll just double click on that actor. I'm going to find the color swatch, and I'll set this to green so I have a real simple visual cue that this actor is the right answer. And again, we're just mocking up the wireframe for the multiple choice question. So I have a correct actor. I'm going to create another actor, and this is going to be the wrong answer. Double click, and my visual cue will be to set this to red for now. So now I have these 2 actors. One represents clicking on the right answer, one represents clicking on the wrong answer. And what I could do is I could drag this logic, or I could drag this actor out onto screen. I could drag the wrong answer out here. So I have 2 instances of that. So at this point I can imagine presenting a question, and depending on what the question is, I'll present 3 answers, and depending on how I present the answers, maybe the correct answer will be answer number 2, or maybe it will be answer number 3. And so I'll move these buttons around to reflect on screen where those answers are. But again, the goal here is just to create a really simple wireframe. So in the next presentation, what I'll do is I'll start to set up some basic logic to keep track of when I click on the right answer or the wrong answer, I'm adding to an existing score. So if I get the correct answer, I'm going to add to a score variable, and if I get the wrong answer, I'm actually going to subtract from a score variable. But we'll do that in the next presentation.